Well, good afternoon, everyone. Matt from SFREP. I'm glad you could join me, and apologize for the digs here behind me. I'm currently in a hotel in Tampa, Florida. So, bear with me. Not going to be the best audio or video quality. I'm on my laptop, so hopefully it works out. Today we're going to be going over buying a new computer and what that entails and what works best for SFREP. We're also going to be going over what new technology, if you guys have any questions on it, that you can do, types of cameras, phones, that kind of stuff. If you have any questions, just put it into the chat. Now, if you haven't done one of these webinars before on YouTube, along the bottom there will be, if you mouse over it, if you're on the desktop version or the laptop version, there will be a bracket icon. If you click on the bracket icon, it is going to make the video go into full screen. Now, that's going to be great because you're going to be able to see everything better, but it is going to mean that you are not going to have the chat. Now, right now, the chat is over here on the right-hand side, but if you click on the elongated rectangle there, that's going to put YouTube into theater mode. You'll be able to see things a little bit better, but it's going to put the chat down at the bottom, so keep that in mind. Chat's going to be important. I want to hear from you guys. Let me know if you have any questions about buying a new computer, because we're going to be going over that. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what our recommended system specifications are. So now these are essentially going to be, these are going to be not not minimum specifications, but this is what we would recommend for you. Now, first of all, let's go over the processor. The processors on PCs right now are either made by AMD or they're made by Intel. Now, there are some, there are some computers out there that have ARM-based processors, and we'll go over that here in a little while. But for right now, most computers that you're going to purchase out on the open market are going to either have processors made by AMD or Intel. So AMD calls their core line of processors Ryzen, and Intel calls them Core. So, and the cool thing is they've gotten their numbering scheme into parity with each other. So basically, a Ryzen 5 and a Core i5 are the same thing. So these processors, they are numbered and they start at 3. So Ryzen 3, Core i3. Then they go up to 5, 7, and 9. So a Ryzen 3 is aimed at the home market and the, I won't want to say student market. I would say like primary school and high school kids. No gaming. It's going to be good for things like, checking your email, doing some shopping, watching the occasional video. Now, the Ryzen 3 and the Core i3 will work just fine with Appraise-It Pro. It'll actually work quite well. But what I generally recommend is jumping up to the 5. The Ryzen 5 and the Core i5, they are aimed at business users. The 7 and the 9 are mostly aimed at gamers. or power business users on the 7, but the 9 is totally aimed at gamers. What I would recommend would be either the Ryzen 5 or the Core i5. Now let's talk about RAM memory. Now, of course, don't confuse RAM memory with storage capacity. So RAM memory, which is the working space of the computer, you're going to be looking at, usually in the mid-range, you're going to see 8 gigs of RAM, although 16 gigs of RAM is starting to creep into the mid-range. Always buy as much RAM as you can afford. So 8 is fine, but if you can get 16, go for it. All right? Storage capacity. In the mid-range and the lower mid-range, you're going to see 256, but once again, excuse me, the upgrade, which is going to be 512 gigs, is creeping into the mid-range as well. On the high end, I would expect to see at least 512 gigabytes, if not a terabyte. Now, you'll see there that it says solid-state drive. You may be wondering what that is. Older computers have mechanical hard drives in them. Now you are going to find that all new computers are going to have solid-state drives. What that means is that the storage is done on chips. It's all chip-based instead of a mechanical spinning hard drive. What that means for you, though, is that solid-state drives are insanely fast. So it's going to be much, much faster than what your previous computer is. And as a matter of fact, I would say that solid-state drives have done more for the perception of a computer being faster than anything else. So even if you have an existing computer that you want to use and you want to continue to use, but you want it to be a little bit faster, look into getting a solid-state drive. They're generally fairly cheap. You can usually get a solid-state drive for around $100, maybe even less. But definitely, especially if you have a desktop, installing a solid-state drive will do wonders for your perception that computer, and for the speed of the computer in general, not even just perception, but it will be faster. Now, of course, the caveat to that is you're going to have all of your stuff reinstalled, so keep that in mind. But solid-state drives make a huge difference for these computers. Next is the keyboard. At the end of the day, you guys type for a living. So you're going to want to make sure that the keyboard feels nice. It's going to have what's called good key travel, which means that the key presses are going to go down quite a bit, and it's just going to feel solid. What I definitely recommend is go to your local store, whether it is going to be a Best Buy or a Staples or an Office Depot. You're going to want to make sure that the keys feel good. Personal opinion, I like Lenovo laptops, if we're talking about laptops. And even on the lower and mid-range Lenovo's, their keyboards are really nice. And when you get into the upper mid-range and the high range, they're excellent. They're backlit, they have good key travel, they feel good. Now remember, when you try to type on it, it's going to feel a little foreign to you. That's going to go away as you get used to that laptop. I am constantly going between my desktop and my laptop, and therefore my laptop, I'm not as good at typing on it because I use it way less, but it's a good feeling keyboard, and that was important to me when I purchased it. So definitely go in, check out the keyboard, make sure that it feels good when you're typing on it, okay? And then finally, your connections. Oh, one more thing about the keyboard. Make sure that it has the 10 key. Now, the laptop I'm on is a smaller laptop. Of course, that makes it more portable, and that's what I use it for, so that's why I went with a smaller 14-inch laptop. As you hit the 15.6-inch laptop, which I would say would probably be the most common laptop size, you're usually going to find a 10 key, which is that number. I don't have a keyboard with me, but it's the number pad over on the right-hand side of the keyboard. That's going to be very important for you guys because you're dealing with numbers a lot. But if you want more portability, you can go with a 14-inch laptop, but just remember that it is, you're going to have to use the number keys up at the top instead of the ones on the side. I find myself often on my laptop reaching over to use the number keypad on the right, and then it's not there. Now, you can get little external number pads, but I would say if that's really important to you, make sure that you get at least a 15.6-inch laptop so that you do have that number pad over on the right-hand side. And finally, we're going to talk about connections. Most laptops now, pretty much all laptops now, and desktops are going to come with USB 3.1. And that's just a faster version of USB. And for the most part, when we're talking about USB connectors on laptops and desktops still, we're talking about what's called USB-A, which is the older style USB. As a matter of fact, here, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. This is the older style USB connector that we have had for years and years and years. This is the thumb drive. So this is the older style USB-A. If you have a newer iPhone or you have an Android phone, you're going to be familiar with USB-C, which is the smaller reversible connector. With those, pretty much every laptop and a lot of desktops now come with the USB-C. If you're getting a laptop, you're going to definitely want to make sure that you have that USB-C, because it's a cool thing that you can do. You can get, and we'll look some up here in a bit, but you can get, and they're great on Amazon. You can find them for like $30. But they're basically docking stations. You plug it into USB-C, it's going to break out and give you a USB-A connector, a bunch of USB-A connectors, maybe an HDMI port for your external monitor. You'll be able to plug your charger into it, so it'll charge your laptop at the same time. So having that USB-C connector is going to be very flexible for you. And all USB-C connectors on these laptops and desktops are already USB 3.1, which is the high-speed USB. Okay, once again, if you have any questions, just use the chat, which is either going to be on the right-hand side or down below, depending upon what you have, the width that you have selected for the video player. So let's go ahead and let's take a look, and sorry for that because I only have one monitor, but let's take a look at what is available out there on the market right now. And this is a really good time to be buying a laptop because we're getting into that time frame when there are really great deals going on because Black Friday is coming up. It's also a great time to buy a TV if you're looking for a new TV. Now, I'm searching for a Ryzen 5 laptop. If you were to pin me down and say, hey, which do you prefer, AMD or Intel chips for the processor? I love the AMD chips. They tend to be a little bit faster and they are a little bit cheaper, and that's always great. But the big thing is the graphics. The system-on-a-chip graphics that these laptops have and a lot of the desktops is far superior on the AMD chips than it is on the Intel. So just because of that, I generally recommend the AMD chips. Samsung, this is a good deal, so I'm going to look at it. I don't love Samsung laptops, and I think that's mostly just a prejudice on my end because I'm not a huge fan of, I don't know, Samsung appliances are terrible. I mean, their phones and their TVs are good, so their laptops are good too. I don't like their keyboards. Feel like they're a little bit mushy and they have a lot of give. They kind of bow a little bit when you use them. But you can't go wrong with these specs. This is a Galaxy Books 4. It's a 15.6 inch. It does have, let me see if I can get a better image there. It does have that 10 key, which is very nice. Not going to have a backlit keyboard at this price point. And it's going to be a plastic shell, which can be nice because it makes the laptop more portable. It makes it lighter. We do have the 10 key, but it is an Intel. It's a Core 7 Intel. This was when I did the search. This was a paid placement up at the top of the list, even though I searched for Ryzen 5. But I mean, it's a great deal for $550. You're getting a Core i7, so you're getting a level 7 processor. So one level up from what I recommend. You're getting the 16 gigs of RAM, and you're getting the 512 gigs of storage. Fantastic deals. Usually a $900 laptop, and you'll find this often where the laptop will be, they'll cut corners elsewhere to give you really good specs. So it's going to be a plastic shell, non-backlit keyboard, no fingerprint reader for unlocking it, maybe not quite as good of a webcam built into it, but you'll find this quite often. At this spec wise, it would be a great desktop replacement if you just wanted to move over to having a laptop and then be able to take your entire business with you when you go somewhere. But remember, it is going to be plastic. It's not going to have a backlit keyboard. They're going to cut corners, so just keep that in mind. But you could use this as a desktop replacement. Also, the fans tend to be really loud on these things as well, so just keep that in mind. They tend to have not the best cooling in the world. Let's back up and see what else we have here. And I'm using Best Buy, but you can use whatever your favorite. You can also do this on Amazon. Although, if you go to Amazon, be careful, because Amazon, you're not going to be able to. You're going to have easy returns, but you're not going to be able to test out the keyboard, take a look at it, see how it feels, see the build quality, etc. This is a Lenovo IdeaPad 15.6. The IdeaPads tend to be a little bit. They're kind of lower mid-range to mid-range maybe. So once again, you're going to have the plastic shell. You're going to have no fingerprint reader, no backlit keyboard. The keyboard's going to be a little mushy. But Ryzen 5, 8 gigs of RAM, and 256 gigs of storage. So like I said, this meets our minimum or our recommended specs. $319. I mean, if you're on a budget, you can't go wrong there. But if we were to look at one of their higher end laptops, which are the Yoga series, for just a little bit more a lot of times. So let's see. Here's a Lenovo Yoga, a 16-inch. It's a 2K screen, so instead of being 1080p, it's twice the resolution of 1080p. Ryzen 5, 8 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, so we're even a little bumped up on our storage. And it's a 16-inch for $500. That's an even better deal than the Samsung was. And it being a Yoga, being one of their higher-end laptops, you're going to get all metal construction, so it's going to be all aluminum. You can see it. Let's see if I can get a better shot of it. You can't really see it that well, but if you look right here, that is a fingerprint sensor. You're going to have a backlit keyboard with the 10 key, and because it's a Yoga, it's going to be able to fold back on itself. You can tent it like this so that you can use it kind of like a desktop, have an external keyboard, and you can even fold it back on itself and use it like a tablet. Although, how often are you using it as a tablet? But the one thing I really do love about these Yogas, really nice webcams, and they have a glass touchscreen. So this is a touchscreen. All of the ones we looked at have been touchscreens, but the cheaper ones are going to have a plastic screen. These are going to have a glass screen, and that makes a big difference when you're using the touchscreen and just in the overall fit and finish. So we're kind of talking like you can get a Hyundai or a Kia. If we're talking in like cars, it's going to be dependable, but the fit and finish isn't going to be there. Or you can get a Toyota or a Lexus, and you're going to have more of that fit and finish with the same reliability, if not a little bit better reliability. But I do love these Lenovo Yogas. On the HP side, they call them, what do they call them? Let's see. You like HP. HP laptops, I don't love their lower-end laptops, but they do make very good high-end laptops. They call it, see if I can find one. What's one of their higher-end? The OmniBooks are their really, really high-end ones, and then they also have the Envy. That's what it is. The Envies are their versions of the Yogas, so they're going to be able to flip back on each other. But this weird thing with these Envies, even though this is a 16-inch screen, they do give you a full-size keyboard, which is nice, but there's no 10 key. Like, you have all this room. Why didn't you put a 10 key there? But you do get the glass touchscreen. You do get the metal construction. It will fold back on itself. That's kind of nice. You can tent it. But come on, HP. Why don't we have the 10 key? And their keyboards are mid-range at best. They're not the best. I think Lenovo makes way better. Let's look at desktops here. So if we do Ryzen 5 desktop. Now, here's the thing. Most people are not buying desktops anymore, so this is going to be an economies of scale thing. The desktops tend to be a little bit more expensive these days, and you're still going to have to buy a monitor for it if you don't already have one. Also, off-the-shelf desktops these days are kind of junky in a way. They don't have the best build quality anymore. So, you know, if you get a high end desktop, they're pretty good, but in the mid range, they're not great. You can also get an all-in-one, which has the screen and everything built into it, kind of like an iMac. But those are, I don't know, they're not that great. They're basically laptops built into the shell with a 27-inch monitor. They're basically a laptop crammed into a desktop form factor. So I would definitely recommend getting an actual real desktop that you can like put on the floor or put up on your desk. You'll notice a lot of these desktops are either gaming desktops, which I don't recommend because the fans on those are insane. So unless you're going to be gaming, there's no reason to get a gaming desktop. And then here's one of those all-in-ones there. So the all-in-ones can be a good deal. You're at $600 for a Ryzen 5, 8 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage. But at that point, why not just buy a monitor and then use your laptop as a desktop, essentially, with that USB-C port breakout. But if you really want to do that, 24 inches is a little bit small. I'd recommend at least a 27. But they're going to be, the 27 is probably going to run you about $700. But you can see here is a Ryzen 5, 12 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage desktop. But I tell you, I've bought these for some of our tech support people. We were not very happy with them. They're very plasticky and they're not great on upgrades. And the optical drive, the CD DVD drive, tends to break very quickly. So they're okay, but I don't know. I would think twice before I would buy one of these. See if they have any nicer desktops here. A lot of gaming desktops. You're also going to find these. No, go away. Go. Oh, thank you. You're also going to find these smaller form factor desktops. I also don't recommend these because you might as well just buy a laptop at that point, especially at $630. You are getting a Ryzen 5 Pro, which is nice, which is a higher end Ryzen 5 Pro. You get 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. But I mean, for $630, I would expect more. Let's see what else they've got here. Once again, if you guys have any questions or want any tips, let me know. Just drop a question there in the chat. That's over to your right or down below. Once again, lots of desktops. These gaming desktops here, they're going to go on sale for Christmas. Don't buy these if you're not going to be gaming because they're not aimed at you and they're going to have very loud fans that kick on, and they're just definitely overkill. I mean, if you were going to be editing video, then yeah, go ahead. But for doing, because I have one of these for editing video. But if you're not going to be doing that, there's no reason for you to get one of these. And they use a lot of electricity as well. I mean, a lot of electricity. Let's see. Let's do, now Dell. People ask a lot about Dell. Dell's not what they used to be. Dell makes really good high-end laptops and business laptops, but their low-end laptops are kind of garbage. And right at the top of the list is right here. This is my number one don't buy. It's this one right here. This laptop, it does go on sale. I have seen it for as low as like $400 before. Right now it's not on sale. This laptop is 100% not worth $630. It is all plastic construction, no backlit keyboard, no fingerprint reader. It is not. It will fold back. Actually, I think this version does have a fingerprint or a backlit keyboard, but no fingerprint reader. And it is plastic construction. So I generally don't recommend this laptop. The black Dell laptops, I would generally say try to stay away from them. All right. But on the upper end, let's back up here. On the higher end, once you get into these like Inspirons, this is a 16-inch Inspiron 2-in-1 Core i7 Ultra, which is their higher end Core i7, 16 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage. Now these things are quite nice, but you are paying for it. But remember, these prices are going to come down the closer that we get to Black Friday. Black Friday, you can expect to find TVs and laptops are going to be on sale. Not Mac laptops, PC laptops. Mac laptops, they don't go on sale very often. And when they do, you're saving $50. Now, the other thing you may want to check out are the Best Buy outlets. There are about 24 of them, I remember, if I remember correctly, across the country. I live in Charlotte. There's one in Charlotte and Pineville. There's also one in Kennesaw, Georgia, which is in the Atlanta area. There's one down in, I think, the Orlando area. There's one in Houston. One just opened up in the D.C. area. And there's one in upstate New York I know about as well. So I think the one in the D.C. area is in Maryland, if I remember correctly. What they generally will do is they will take a Best Buy that they're going to close, and instead they turn it into an outlet. You're going to walk into one of those outlets and think that they just have appliances. They generally also have laptops and desktops there. Their returns and open boxes, they may have a small cosmetic blemish, but a lot of times you can save $300 or $400 on a laptop, a couple $100 on a desktop as well. And on TVs as well. You can, if you want to get a big TV to use as a monitor, I know a couple of our customers have actually mounted a TV on the wall in front of their desk, and they use that as their monitor because, let's face it, as we get older, the eyes go first. And so that makes it easier to see. So you can also get great deals on TVs there, so just keep that in mind. All right? Now, if you have a question later on after this webinar, or if you're out and about and you're looking at laptops at a Best Buy or a Staples or an Office Depot or something like that, and you want to ask me a question about something you're looking at, I'm going to give you my office number because we have an IP-based phone system, an internet-based phone system. I can also receive text messages on my office numbers. And I'm going to recommend you text me because if you try to call me and it's after hours, I'm not going to answer, but I will answer your text messages. So get your pen and paper ready. Feel free to send me photos of what you're looking at. I'll be happy to give you my opinion. I'm not going to put it up here on the screen because I'm going to start getting spam calls if I do that. But my number is area code 828-919-9082. That's 828-919-9082. Just jot that down. And when you are out looking at laptops and desktops or any type of technology, I'll be happy to answer any questions and give you my opinion. I've been using computers since 1985. I love technology. It's my hobby. Photography is also my hobby, but I love technology, and I'm always trying to keep up with what's out there. If you have an iPhone, Apple Intelligence was just released yesterday, so go into settings and check for updates, and you can install Apple Intelligence. If you have an iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max or an iPhone 16 of any kind, you can check out the Apple Intelligence. I don't think we have any questions, so if you come up with questions later on, feel free to text me, or you can email me, training@sfrep.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions about anything that you might have. And always remember, if you need immediate assistance, you're going to want to email tech@sfrep.com, or you're going to want to call them 7 days a week, toll-free, 800-644-4051. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. And I'm going to be working out of a hotel room. I'm with my wife while she's on a work trip, spending some time with her. But while she's at work, I'm working from the hotel room. So I'll be happy to answer any email questions that you have. Y'all have a great rest of your week and a great weekend coming up. And I hope that all of you stay safe and stay healthy. Thanks a lot.